Hey, what's going on, guys? It's FPL Yusuf here, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be going into my game week 12 transfer targets. We are at the international break, so we have sort of a week and a half, 2 weeks before we have to make some decisions. But I'm just going to go through the current transfers that I'm looking to make. Maybe I might move for some early transfers, but we're going to get into all of that in this video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Okay, welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for being here today with me on my YouTube channel for another video. Before we get into this one, if you wouldn't mind dropping a thumbs up and subscribing down below, it would be greatly appreciated. So let's go over game week 11 and let's see how my team got on. It was a very, I would say, underwhelming week for me. Just above the average mark, so we got 51, a small red arrow this week, which drops us out of the million. So we are currently sitting at about 1.1 million. Like I said, disappointing in so many different ways. You know, as you can see, all the midfielders, Bar and Burmo, just twos across the board, which I have to say, I was a little bit surprised. I did think that, either Palmer or Saka would do something even in that game. I know they were playing against each other, but I did expect, something from them at least. The defense, again, Rico Lewis, another 0 points for him. Got a little bit lucky with the Mazraoui clean sheet with bonus points, which was so helpful. Rayan Aït-Nouri, again, getting the clean sheet. Maybe a little bit fortunate for that one as well, because I don't know if that Southampton goal really should have been ruled out. But in terms of the actual transfers that we brought in this week, it worked fantastic. Obviously, we had 2 free transfers. Brought in Aït-Nouri, got his clean sheet. Brought in Matthias Cunha, a goal and an assist and 3 bonus points. So really happy with them. Did keep hold of Erling Haaland. He did get a goal. Was on 2 bonus points before, I think it was at the 97th minute, then ended up getting booked, and it dropped him completely out the bonus points. And yeah, it just was a terrible end to the game. Again, maybe he could have had more. I think his XG in that game was about 1.38, so maybe he could have had a brace. But yeah, we're going to talk about him in a little while as well in the back end of this video, just to go over whether or not he's the right pick. But like I said, we just took a small red arrow this week down to 1.1 million, but overall not too bad. As we get to game week 12, now this is the last international break for the year. I think now is kind of where people are going to start looking at rank and looking at where they are in the world. So now it's here on out. It's got to be an upwards trajectory, and hopefully we're going to start that run this week, at least with the transfers, which I'm going to get into right now. Okay, so as I said, the biggest talking point this week is around Erling Haaland. Now, it's worth me saying before I get into actually proposing the transfers to you guys, if any of you guys got any thoughts about the transfers that I'm looking to make, please feel free to drop it in the comments down below. I'd be grateful just for any feedback of what you guys think. So for me personally, I think this was the transfer that I had booked in from a couple of weeks ago. Now, I was always planning to get to the international break with Haaland, and then from game week 12, when after the international break's finished, was just move him down to someone and then move Brennan Johnson up to Mo Salah. Now, obviously, Salah on paper this week has got the better fixture. Southampton away. Southampton haven't been great this season, despite the fact that they've looked like they've improved recently over the last few weeks. Whereas Man City, they were playing a Tottenham team, which I thought was in good form. But as we saw against Ipswich in that last game, didn't really look too great. Now, I was, like I said, a couple of weeks ago, the transfer was sort of nailed in. There was no debate about it. However, if Mickey van der Ven isn't back, that leaves Dragusin against Erling Haaland. Now, for me personally, I've always known Spurs to be like City's bogey team. I just wonder if there's something here for Erling Haaland to get onto. Man City, for all their flaws that they've had this season, especially defensively, they have still been created chances. Like, Haaland's getting opportunities. He actually has a higher XG for the last 5 games than did in the first 5 games. In the first 5 games, he scored 2 hat-tricks and a brace. So it's crazy to me, the fact that he's only scored 1 goal in the last 4 or 2 in the last 5, whichever way you want to look at it. That's a mad stat in itself. But this is the first transfer, as you can see on screen. The idea is to move Haaland down. It would be to Alexander ISAK. That's the striker that I'd want to go for. I was debating about Nicholas Jackson, but I think that 4 yellow cards just slightly puts me off a little bit, because I've got Semenyo who's on 4, Rayan Aït-Nouri's on 4, so I already have a few players in there who are close to that suspension period. So it would be Haaland down to Alexander ISAK, and then it would be Brennan Johnson up to Mo Salah. That would be for a -4, as I only have 1 free transfer this week. There is an opportunity, or maybe a possibility, that I move Rico Lewis out as well, to like someone like Konate. Despite the fact that he's got a really good fixture this week, there's a few trickier ones after this. They play against Man City. I think they have a few, Newcastle. There's a few tricky ones over the next sort of 3 or 4. But after that, it's Liverpool defence is someone that I want to be doubled up in. So it'd probably be Van Dijk and Konate at some point. And this is what having no Haaland does. It frees up the money and able to do that, to allow me to get Van Dijk, Konate, Mo Salah in the midfield. I'd be tripled up on them. Isak's a great striker. I could move, Welbeck up to like a Nicholas Jackson if I wanted to. So the no Haaland, it's not really so much to do with Haaland himself. It's more the price point that he's at and what you can do with the rest of your squad with that money. That's more of what I'm looking at. Because if you're talking about an actual asset for asset, Haaland or Salah, Haaland will score more goals by the end of the year. So I do expect him to have more points, despite the fact that Salah's a midfielder. I do think Haaland will accumulate more goals, more points. But the problem for me is that the money that you get from dropping Erling Haaland down spreads so well. There's 2.5 million difference between Salah and Haaland. You know, it's a vast amount of money. But that is the first proposed transfer. A guaranteed -4, which would be Haaland down to Isak, Johnson up to Salah, with a potential -8, depending on whether Rico Lewis comes out or not for Konate or someone else, Chelsea defender, a Brighton defender. So there's other options there, but probably definitely a -4 for that one to make that happen. Maybe a -8. Now, the other transfer that I'm looking to make is actually keeping hold of Erling Haaland and going without Mo Salah. Now, what this would entail is moving Welbeck up to Isak, but then Saka would have to drop down to... I mean, theoretically, I could drop Saka to Bruno Fernandes and make that work with enough money. But I don't think I'd want to do that for two reasons. One, because I think Bruno's got 2 good fixtures coming up, and then it's a little bit trickier after. There's Arsenal in there, there's Man City, so I don't really want a piece of Bruno for that. But also, I do want to get Rico Lewis upgraded to Konate, and if I do go for Bruno and Isak, that leaves me with literally no money elsewhere. So it would probably be a differential pick, and someone that I've been keeping my eye on recently is Pedro Neto. Now, I think FPL with differentials, you don't want to get someone in for the sake of getting them in, because this year you can't have all the premium. So the people who've got Haaland don't have Salah. People who have Salah don't have Haaland. If you own both of them, you haven't got Palmer or Saka. So you're never going to be able to get everyone. The thing is, for me, in the midfielders in particular, I can see myself changing them over the next few weeks. Burmo after game week 14 doesn't look that great for fixtures. Johnson, again, Spurs. I feel like I've kind of got my use from him, so it's time to maybe move him on. So I'm looking for someone else. Now, the run that Chelsea's on at the moment, and the fixtures they've got coming up are truly fantastic. And Pedro Neto, I think he's about 6 million, 6.1. He's actually started the last 3 or 4, and he's played 90 minutes through all of them. So it's looking like he's part of that first team squad. Now, obviously, I would like to have Palmer and Jackson. I've got Palmer in there. I can't really afford to get to Jackson if I keep Erling Haaland, which means that I need someone else. Now, if I'm looking to change up my midfielders, obviously Bukayo Saka is a big loss because Arsenal going forward, that's kind of going to be their main guy. However, I do wonder if just for a small sample size, maybe sort of 6-7 week, there could be an upside with Pedro Neto. So that is my second choice. Again, it would be for a -4, but it would be Danny Welbeck up to Alexander Isak and Saka down to Neto. Now, I don't also love the idea of getting rid of Danny Welbeck, which is why the Haaland move made sense, because I could keep Cunha, I could keep Welbeck, and then add Isak into that. The thing about it is that I think that there's just better, cheaper forwards than there is cheaper midfielders. And I think that is where the big thing comes in. If you go Salah, the cheaper forward that you need to bring in is a lot better value than the cheaper midfielder that you need if you kept Haaland. So I think that's something definitely to consider about. But I think, as you can see on screen, the transfers that I've got, it will definitely be one of those 2 choices. I just haven't decided which one yet.